If you've got a garden full of flowers and would like to create something from them, then I'm going to show you how to make a hand-tied midsummer bouquet, even if you've never spiraled before. So there's three things that I'm going to share with you today that will make a huge difference to your hand-tied and spiraling. One is the ingredients to choose from your garden. The other is the shapes to combine together to give you that lovely bouquet shape. And the final thing is garden flowers are different from Dutch stems that are very, very straight. So I'm going to share some techniques for how you achieve a spiral with garden grown flowers. So it's midsummer in the UK. It's actually currently tipping down, which I'm very pleased about because the garden hasn't had enough water. But I'm going to share the ingredients first of all in my top 3 things for creating a spiral with your garden grown ingredients. Obviously a key thing is conditioning, and I talk in my other videos about conditioning, but you can see that's a really stiff stem, and this is apple mint, a really lovely open shaped flower, but I do make sure that it's not too messy and cut some of the leaves off the stems so that you're left with some are poker straight, some are curved, and I'll be showing you how you can use those shapes in your own spiral bouquet. So that's my one of my ingredients, a very open shape. Another is this wonderful Hydrangea Annabelle. So I've just done an exhibit at the RHS Tat and Flower Show, and Annabelle was for sale a few years ago there. So it's classic hydrangea season here. The colour, some might call it kind of baby pink, and a little bit girly, but you can make it look sophisticated by combining other tonal colours with it. So I'll be showing you what I'm going to combine with Annabelle, who's just such a beautiful ingredient. So another kind of very textural ingredient is Achillea. I love Achillea because you can dry this as well as use it in fresh bouquets. So beautiful, beautiful ingredients. And I want some pops of colour. And so I'm going to use sedum, and I adore this. I grow the red variety, and you can also dry this. I mean, it needs a bit of drying, but it's again very textural, beautiful colours on the top, a really good long stem when you've had the plant in your garden for a couple of years. So highly recommend growing that. But also I do recommend planting a few penstemons, because these are spikes. You need spikes in your bouquet as well. And I grew these scabiosa. The variety is called Black Cat. It's almost kind of blown, but I love that when they start to blow for these seed heads and blow for those heads as well. So you do need some spikes in your bouquet, and you also need a few friendly faces, I call them. So this is Cosmos Rose Piquete, just the most beautiful friendly flat face. Now they don't last that long, even if you condition them super well, and you can see I'm taking the little bits of foliage off down to give me a cleaner bouquet stem, but they are just a real pop in your bouquet. So once I've given my bouquet, I tell people if anything goes over, just to kind of just take those petals out. So I'm going to include those as well. And there's a little bit more scent. I have got, she says reaching over, this amazing bronze fennel. You can see how stiff it's been conditioned, and it is actually mature as well. You can see that by the seed heads. So when you're picking from your garden, the ingredients are really important. It's really vital to condition them. So cutting the cool in the morning, definitely 24 hours in cool water in the dark, in scrupulously clean buckets. And then you've got this range of shapes to combine, from very open shapes to spikes to sort of moppy heads, and to a little bit of a flatter face as well. So I'm going to leave this one to the outside because I need a sort of more open shape to the outside. Gosh, I sometimes wish I was too or 3 inches taller actually, but that's another tale. And I'm going to start with a nice stiff stem in the middle, and I'm going to start with some of that mint, and this is your binding point. I'm actually left-handed, so I put things in my right hand, but you're making a loose kind of vase with your hand, and then you're starting that spiral. So if you start with little straighter stems in the middle, binding point, turn it. I've got another bit of sedum. I like to keep my stuff in buckets, in kind of organised into shapes really. So, and then you're making a cross, and the size of your bouquet is dictated by the height of your binding point. So the higher up it is, the smaller the bouquet, the lower down it is, the bigger the bouquet. And then I always go with things the way they want to go. So you can see that sedum is actually trying to go out there. So I'm going to let him go out there, and I'm going to use some of, you'll see in this bucket, it's all my transitional shapes. So I'm going to put a little shape there, then I'm going to turn it, then I'm going to put another. They do like to get attached to each other, these Annabelles. They're very, very friendly. I'm going to put another one there. They are also huge, so they do need to be slotted in. So I'm going to slot that one in there, and then keep turning. And I think the thing about making anything really is you've got to switch off that super critical mind that says, oh, this is not going to work out, this is going to be a little bit not what I want. So you just have to be gentle, be kind, and just lay the stems at a 45 and turn round. And then I've got another stem there, and because I'm the other way handed, I'm looking at it thinking I ought to have put the buckets on the other side now, but you live and learn, don't you? So can you see how the stems at the bottom are curving the way that they want to go? I remember the very first time I saw my friend demonstrate, when I was living down in Maidenhead, she said, never argue with the stem because it will always win. And she was so right, and I've always remembered that. So never argue with the stem is a really good adage for a bouquet. So I have got some really good pops of colour with that sedum. We've turned round, and you can already see that I'm starting to get a nice shape for my bouquet. And what's really, really important is the prep, because you want super clean stems when they're going into a vase. So you turn it round, and then you put some more, and then you turn it round. Now I'm going to start to put some of my spikes in and just thread them through. I'm going to put some of my scabious in, just thread them through, turn it, and then do the same. So I don't often spiral, but I think when you're in the summer and you've got a lot of really lovely flowers, it's quite useful to spiral. The only thing is to make sure that if you're going clockwise, keep going clockwise. If you're going anti-clockwise, keep going anti-clockwise, because you will not get a spiral shape if you kind of change direction one way or change direction another way. I lay them on top so you can start to see that spiral is forming, and I'm going to have a look at, you can see what I'm doing here. I'm laying my stems and I'm going slightly lower with the head, so that is giving me the shape and flowers coming down. So I turn it round and I choose another stem, and I'm laying it on the bottom, I'm hooking it in, I'm turning it round, and that's all you do, she says. But I think people kind of like look at the shape of a spiral too soon, because obviously when you first start it, it isn't going to look like a spiral. In fact, it looks like a rather flat triangle, and doesn't look like anything at all. And that is the point at which people panic and go, oh, it doesn't look like a spiral. So the thing with spirals that I've learned is to just keep going. So I am going to have a few of my little flat heads, because even though they're smaller, you will see them because there's such a pop of colour. Keep going. And even if they're softer heads, and these have had conditioning, I love rose piquete, but they're not super robust. They are never going to be super robust. But that's okay. I think an important thing as well is to introduce seasonality into your bouquet. So right now in my cutting garden, my Dorcas, my wild carrot, is just going over, but I love it when it's kind of folding up, starting for autumn. That globular textured shape I think is better than the flat head. I really, really love it. So I'm going to add some of those, and that Dorcas, because it's a stiffer stem, will actually hold your rose piquetes. So you need to think about stems as scaffolding as well. So something beautiful and frothy on the edge is a really good idea with a bouquet, because it just gives you a natural arc. Now I really love using scent and herbs, and if you don't grow this bronze fennel, highly recommend it. Grows like a weed on my solid clay, and I just think it gives a really unique, beautiful colour. I'm just going to cut that off. That's going to go there, and it's got a really great stiff stem as well, so I like to put stiff stems on the outside, and you can start to see that's building up now. So get some more of this fennel. Now hand ties always take quite a bit of material. It's surprising really. Well, yes and no, because there's a lot of stems, and you're pulling them together a bit, but I am still trying to get a sort of looseness to the feel of it, so that you still look at the bouquet. And this is the point at which I like to pause, have a little look, and then think, right, I'll start to use some more of my shorter mint to pull down the sides of the bouquet, so you've got something lower down. And then I've also got some honesty that you can also use for drying. I don't often include things that can dry because I want to dry them, but it's quite nice to have a little bit of that colour down the bottom. And if you've got a bigger stem like that, you can cut it and make a couple of stems. So if you like, you're making a little collar for your bouquet. And that way you've got colour everywhere. So I'm just having a little look at what else I've got here. I have cut some Artemisia, which landed in my cutting beds from the hedgerows, but it's not actually robust enough at the minute, so I'm not going to include that. I might just finish off with a couple of stems of mint, because I do love it. So I'm going to have a little look, see where my mint needs to go. And this is where, if you look at that curved stem, you can start to see that it's going to sit there. Now this is when you just kind of slightly loosen it in your hand, and yeah, I think that's good. Couple little more stems of Achillea, which is just really, really nice pop of red. So I grow a colour palette in my cutting garden because you want to be able to go out there, pick anything and it will go, in a bouquet. So I think that's a really good idea to grow a colour palette. So this is one of my favourite, and I think there are months that are colour palettes. So July for me is this kind of burgundy with the pink and the purples of the apple mint. So you can see there that that's the shape. You can see the spiral below, and you can see my binding point. Now it's really, really critical to tie off exactly at your binding point. So I always take a piece of raffia because I don't want to grot my stems, hook it here, go exactly round, and then thread it through, and then that way I'm not going to lose my binding point. And you pull, as everything with floristry, it's gentle but firm, and then I usually tuck it and then tie off, and that's my spiral. So I think you can see that I've used all the shapes and quite loosely kept to a single colour palette, and kept going in the direction once I decided which direction I was going to go in. Chose a variety of different shapes and sizes, but all pretty much in a tonal sort of burgundy red palette. And that is my hand tie, and I'm going to now, if you want to cut it off, if it's going to go in a vase, always cut long because you can't add them back on, but you can take more off. And I just hold that, get a line across, get yourself some good secateurs with garden grown flowers, because I find I've destroyed the odd pair of florists scissors with my garden grown flowers. So that's my spiral hand tied from my midsummer garden, with lots of scent from the mint and the bronze fennel, and lots of colour from those sedum pods from my rose piquete cosmos, and from the Achillea. So thanks so much for watching, and if you'd like to know how to dry any of these ingredients, then we've got some other videos up on our channel too.